Welcome to Growing Your Mindset with Adam Diaz and Justin Hoke. It is Friday, Future Forward Friday, and today we are going to be talking about the subject of visualization, which is pretty dope, honestly. I mean, it's probably it's one of those topics that we touch on all the time, but never touch on in depth, particularly. So what a great opportunity to do that today. Go ahead and take us away, brother.
Yes, good morning, everybody. What's up, Angie? TGIF. Yes, it is Future Forward Friday. And when we're talking about looking at our future lives, our future selves, this idea of progress and, preparing for being, our best version of ourselves, visualization comes into play a lot, I think. And like you said, it's such an interesting thing how you worded it, because it is that we talk about it all the time, but yet we don't. And so definitely am excited about diving into it a little deeper today, and really talking about the nuts and bolts of what it is, how it works, and who's even using this kind of stuff, and some techniques and tips that we can get into.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to jumping down the rabbit hole with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. So, Justin and I have been practicing visualization for at least, the last, several months, over the past year, quite a bit. And I know I've dabbled in it other than that also. And so
It's
what's that?
it's funny when we give something so natural. I mean, everybody does a name.
A
Then
name.
all of a sudden, it's kind of like, what are they practicing? What is visualization? And it's like, well, I mean, okay, so we're giving a name to using our imaginations.
That's it.
Yeah. So but I just thought it was funny how we've been practicing it for well, honestly, we've been practicing it our whole lives.
Our
I mean,
whole lives.
practicing
Yeah.
it, but intentionally for the purpose of trying to of trying to align ourselves with the future that we want to walk into, um, probably since Clever last year.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so glad you pointed this out, because it sounds, now that I think of it, rather silly that we've been practicing it, but at the same time intentionally, right? Because we do use our imaginations all the time, every day, whether we are aware of it or not. And if we're not being intentional, usually it's like in a negative way, right? We're thinking about what could happen with the fears. We are kind of gripped with anxiety a lot of times. And I think visualization, when we're using it in this way and we're thinking about it, hey, this is a tool. Like this is a technique that we can use our imaginations for, and so when we're like, okay, now we can use this thing, it's like an actual, we have these tools in our tool belt, and visualization is one of those things. And I love that you pointed this out, that we have an imagination, right? This is something we've used. We are familiar with our own imagination, and we can leverage it in ways that can really benefit us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every single great invention that's ever been made, every single great innovation that has ever been exercised or practiced, every massive theory in science all started in somebody's brain.
That's it. That's it. I mean, every person that we've talked about, or a group of people that have invented something, or we talk about these things all the time, the Wright brothers, and the idea of sending, radio waves and internet and Wi-Fi and all the digital things that we have today. All of these things started as not only in somebody's mind, but as an actual impossibility, until, they started putting their imagination to work. And so just thinking of it that way, there is no limit to what we can actually do and create and achieve.
Yeah, I mean, unless of course I mean, there's a set of laws that we don't necessarily know about that govern the limits. I mean, so far, I mean, as far as what we can imagine, I mean, there's no limits on that. And then
Yeah.
if everything that we can imagine, like Bob Proctor says, is something that we can achieve, then dang, the skies must be the limit, because I can imagine all kinds of stuff, crunchy, creamy, chewy, and all that.
Yeah, so, you know, looking at this more and more, I think there's a lot of research and data out there these days that show us like this is something that is an actual productive tool that we can use and it works. And why does it work? I think there's a lot of reasons why this kind of thing works. I really like what Ed Milet talks about with the reticular activating system. Like this is one of those things that it can activate. And this is just pretty much like your antenna, the and for all of you that aren't familiar with this term RAS or the reticular activating system, it's when you buy a Tesla, you start seeing Teslas everywhere. It's your mind and your focus, your attention just is attracted to those things that you're thinking about and that you're focused on. And so visualization helps us in this way because we are focusing on specific intentional things, outcomes, situations, characteristics, whatever it may be, and we tend to find pathways to get to those points.
Yeah, I think the area where I get most really intrigued or inquisitive on this subject is that inexplicable area, that area that's hard to explain. The fact that when I intentionally visualize a future that I want for myself and for my family, how it seems as though outside forces are conspiring to help make those things that I'm seeing a reality. That's the part that's most intriguing because it's the part that I don't have the most cut and dry answers for. It's like,
Yeah,
well, what's going on there?
yeah,
It could be as simple as the promise of the Bible that um, if you ask, you will receive. If you seek, you will find. If you knock, it will be open to you. Although there's a caveat in Scripture that for you to receive the things that you desire, you must first surrender your desires to the will of God. As it says, when you seek me with all your heart, then you will find me. Or it says um, 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 uh, that uh, those who make their desires my desires, they will receive the desires of their heart, which is a paraphrase, but it's essentially what the passage says. I can't remember the address off the top of my head, but it's an interesting concept when
yeah,
we apply it to this idea of how come it seems like when I'm really focused on success in this area, there's help along the way.
yeah, yeah. And there is, and I think those things that we are seeking after, we tend to find them. And just in the same way as the things that we hold important, we tend to get those things done. And and so when we're looking at this idea of visualization, there's so many people. I was blown away by how many people are using these techniques and in various ways, right? And when we say visualization, we say this, we're just using our imaginations in creative, in strategic ways. And so there's dozens, if not hundreds, of techniques. And so, we can touch on a few of these kind of things here, but this is really to uh, dip your toes, wet the appetite a little bit, and introduce this idea of visualization for those who are maybe not very familiar with it.
Yeah, and I guess what I was sort of tripping into was that area that when you visualize, the purpose is to take those things that you're focusing on, meditating on, desiring in the future, and one intentionally going after them, intentionally making it something that's positive and a blessing to yourself and others. And then the other big spooky word is manifestation, and that simply means when we take those things in our imagination, or when those things in our imagination have a physical representation in the real
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
And what is that? If you're manifesting a better future and higher income, better health, then the manifestation of that is that you start doing things like applying for higher paying jobs or working out or
right,
having a better diet, and those things those things have a manifestation in the real world. They're not just
Right,
in your mind.
right, right. And that was a really good summation of that word, because I know sometimes it can get nebulous in a lot of ways, and people interpret and take it to mean different things. But it's just a word, right? It's just the physical results of our mental action. And man, some of the people that use these techniques, Ben Hardy talks about it a lot in a lot of his books. One of the things when we did Albert Einstein, a lot of his brainstorming was visualization, and he came up with all of his equations and theories and things through this technique.
Yeah, well, I mean, and in the movie Amadeus, which is I forget which composer is that
Yeah,
one
Mozart.
dealing. I think it is. I mean,
I haven't seen the movie, but
but
I think that's
they
Mozart.
they I saw it years and years ago, so my memory's a little bit rusty there. But basically, the way that they described his process was he would actually meditate, focus, and he would hear the parts in his head. He would hear the whole thing in his head,
Mm,
and then he would take what he heard in his head, and he would put it down on paper. And that's the whole process right there. It's seeing it in your head. That's the visualization part, and then writing it down on paper. That's the first level of manifestation, and then getting a orchestra to play it. That's the ultimate level of
yeah,
manifestation.
yeah. Amazing,
Yeah.
and we talk a lot about Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill is a big proponent of visualization, and Bob Proctor as well. So all of these people, there's so many, too many to name, but we have all these people that are using this. Not to mention, I think the first person that I've actually heard this about before I even was this was a thing on my radar was a UFC fighter. It was one of the guys in there, and they were talking about how he would practice visualization, and so athletes use this a lot, especially champions, Olympic athletes. They'll use these practices. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into
Yeah.
some of these things.
I thought it was interesting, I'd heard of visualization and manifestation way before practicing them, but I always heard of them as the boogeyman.
Ah,
That's
yeah.
new age. That's what the new agers do. And because of that, it was a very long time before I was willing to allow myself to use my imagination in a positive way to it's silly because we give words power in a positive or negative way by what we pour behind them and the associations that we make with them. So when I was thinking of visualization, manifestation, these sorts of things, my mind immediately went to something that was contrary to my religion, because that's the framework in which I've heard of it. There are Christians who practice this. People of every different religion practice this. It's simply taking what, in my worldview, God gave us, which is this amazing area of real estate between our ears, and saying, look, I'm going to use this as a tool in the future, in the futuring of my life, my family's life, and the world around me.
And on the same thread of religion, and this idea of this, I think that if we look back at the creation account, like this is essentially what's going on here. We have God speaking things into existence. He had to have a picture of these things in his mind first before it. And this is what Bob Proctor says. He says anything that you can hold in your head, you can hold in your hand. And I love this way of framing it, because that is what it is. It's We can think of things, we can come up with plans, we can come up with inventions, we can come up with ideas that when we act upon them, they create results.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and those were, I mean, that one analogy was probably the most was probably the most that would trigger me before,
Yeah.
because there's a segment of Visible Christianity, the TV preachers, right? And they use manifestation and visualization, but they call it a different name. And it seems as though what they're suggesting is that since God can do what God can do, um, he
Mhm.
can speak what is not as though it were, and then it becomes that they were insisting that, oh,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
act like God, and we can lie a bunch. We can
Right.
say things that aren't true and just keep saying them over and over again until we believe them strongly. And so it's the way that they communicated it that
Yeah.
made it so hinky
Right.
to me, and it was something that I didn't want anything to do with, because and I think when we do things that contradict our own sense of truth, hey, this is true and I'm doing something that's false, we don't believe it. I mean, that's not a good practice for visualization,
Yeah.
right? Because when we if we have this feeling, well, I'm lying, when we're looking and we're seeing ourselves in a future business agreement, or as someone who's wealthier than we are in our current state, or as my eyes are even closed when I'm talking about it, because I'm thinking about how I envision that future version of me. Um, if I'm doing it in such a way where I think, okay, all of this is lies. There is no, this is not. Well, that's not visualization.
Yeah.
Visualization, not only am I seeing that, but I'm also trying to intentionally discover the path to getting there, and then putting in action to get there. All of these things are sort of synergistically working together, where it's not that I'm lying and trying to be God and act in a way that only God can act, or at least under my understanding, that only God is able to create in a way of bringing something out of nothing.
Yeah.
um, I'm able to use the tools that God has given me. And I mean, frankly, I can't, things that aren't true, I can't imagine. So I'm
Right.
free to imagine whatever I want. Why? Because I can't imagine, unless it's for like a fiction novel, but then that's manifestation as well. Because if I create a fictional character and I put him on paper and I sell him in a movie or whatever else, I've that's the whole practice right there. It's
Right.
visualization and manifestation.
Yeah. So let's get into some of these techniques that we can use,
Let's
because
go.
it's one of those things that I think you laid it out pretty clear there. So um, I think the first ways that we can practice kind of these things, if you haven't before, because it can be hard to do sometimes, is using a guided visualization or guided meditation. And there's tons and tons of these on YouTube. You can check them out, search around, find ones that you like. There's different techniques, there's different scenarios. These kind of things can really help. They're pre-recorded, so you can just follow along.
Yeah, we have a few on the Grow Giver YouTube channel. And were you able to move some of those over,
I
or
have not yet, but they
okay?
will be there soon.
We're
Yes.
gonna
Yeah.
move some of those over to the new YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
And um, the names of the I really enjoyed Joe Dispenza,
Yeah.
and the ones that he puts together. I don't know if you've heard of this. I mean, besides me mentioning it to you, but the Gateway experiment.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Gateway experiment?
Just what you had mentioned to me. Yeah.
The Gateway experiment is super interesting to me. Basically, I it's a project that's been kind of made famous recently, because as the FBI's not FBI, CIA is declassifying more and more stuff. And yes, there's a lot of people wondering, why are they declassifying stuff? Like, I mean, we've heard recently some bizarre things, like, the FBI is now saying, "Oh, by the way, yes, there are aliens. We have spaceships and little green men."
So, hey, let's we got 10 minutes left. Let's get in some of these techniques, man. Let's get in
Oh,
some
okay.
of
Well,
the techniques here.
oh,
So,
all right, but let's move on then.
yeah, so we have this idea of guided visualization. There's tons of things out there on these, and also we can do things like vision boards. This is a like so if you're kind of crafty and you like to do these kind of things, they can be really impactful by putting together these vision boards, whether it's a digital one like on Canva or something, or actually cutting out things and putting it together. Again, on YouTube there's tons of techniques and walkthroughs on how to do these things. I find these fun to do myself, and I also enjoy doing these with my kids. Like, this is something that we can do as a family and kind of get them thinking, like, what do you want to do, what do you want to be in a year, how do you want your life to look. And these are really good techniques to use, vision boards.
Yeah, I mean, basically, what you're doing is you're taking those things, right? Like that picture of who you want to be, whether it's somebody who vacations a lot, or whether it's somebody who is a master of this or that industry that you're involved in, and you're putting up pictures to represent that, something that you can look at, something that can be that can help you to intentionally focus on those things that um, that you want to make a reality in your life.
For sure. And one of my other favorite ones is, I see a lot that Ben Hardy talks about. He talks about it a lot as far as future self visualization. And this is along the same idea as a vision board, because you're just forcing yourself in different ways to think about how you want to be in your future. What do you want your future self to look like? And when we do these kind of techniques, it is very powerful, because then we start being intentional and we start figuring out ways to shape those things and happening, rather than just being reactionary, and then we're just shaped by happenstance and chance.
Yeah, and just to go back for a second, if anybody wants more information on the Gateway experiment and whatnot, just contact me privately, uh, and we'll discuss that. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. And so when we're looking at this idea of our future self, there's books like Be Your Future Self Now, and things, but also there's lots of techniques that I would practice, like doing journaling, where you would just imagine what your day would be like 2 years from now or 5 years from now, and doing those kind of things can really help, just stimulate all of those ideas. And this is one of the most powerful ways that I've used to practice visualization in my life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's basically the process, right?
For sure. And there's other techniques out there. There's a ton of things. Another thing, if you're just starting out, to what's called progressive visualization, where you just slowly build up. You start focusing on simple things at first, and then you can really progress it from there as you get used to it. Because a lot of times when you practice these things, and you're in a quiet place and you're thinking, your mind can wander. And so starting simple is often a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, also making sure, one of the things that we stress here a lot is knowing your destination ahead of time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're uh, um, visualization without a destination in mind, without a um, um, without knowing, where you're traveling to, is daydreaming. And so, daydreaming is not bad. It's just it's not the tool that we're talking about.
Yeah. And that's the same as, like, setting goals, but not really doing anything to accomplish them. Right. And so there is that action that has to be taken there. And which brings us to, some of the tips that we can do, because this is the first one here. Justin is so correct, that we have to have clear goals. We have to have that clear direction. When we enter into, if we're going to spend 15 minutes or 10 minutes visualizing, whether that's journaling or meditating, We need to have clear goals in what we're trying to focus on. And that's why I like prompts, because it can keep my mind on something. I like writing because then my mind wanders less, because I can look back at what I'm writing there and kind of think about it and write some more. But however you do it, setting clear goals is the first key.
Yeah, yeah, and then, seeing those things, it's really, if nothing else, obviously, um, what we're doing is talking about something that is I is a tool for focus, a tool for direction, a tool for guiding, our outcomes. But, one of the ways in which it's it's a help or a benefit to us reaching these goals is that it's a motivator. It's very motivating to, to see myself or to see yourself winning, at this thing that you put your hand to or put your energy to, and by just seeing that in your mind and focusing on it, repeatedly and whatnot, it just that reticular activating system that Emmett talks about, it begins to sort of, put your mind in that direction, and you start, as you're doing stuff in regular everyday life, you start, doing stuff, whether consciously or subconsciously, to make those things that you're seeing, a reality. I mean, obviously, those conscious things we do, seem to be, those conscious efforts we take, seem to, make us go a lot faster than the subconscious. But the fact is that it's kind of like when you're working on a project. And I think we've all probably had this experience. You're really working on something, you're really focusing on it. You go to sleep, and the solution comes to you in your sleep.
Yep, yep, yep. And I think Edison says something to the tune of, never go to sleep without a problem to work on. He's something like that, and I love that. I love that. And and another thing, after we setting these clear goals and like being intentional with that, we can also create a routine, because consistency in these things is what's important. We see that in every part of our life. If we want to improve on something, we have to be consistent. And so, for us to consistently, whether we're journaling or meditating and visualizing, to do these things on a consistent basis. So, creating a routine really helps with that.
Yeah, 100%. And, um, oh, Carolyn and Myron are here. Hey, how are you guys doing?
Hey, what's going on,
Welcome.
guys?
Oh, yeah,
So yeah, after we create a routine, I think space is really important. Finding a quiet, comfortable space that you can really focus and block out that time, and so that the people that are around in my place, it's my kids and my wife, and make sure that they know, hey, I'm gonna be busy, tied up for the next 15-20 minutes, however long it's gonna be, and so I can make sure that I have that quiet, comfortable space to work and to think.
yeah, which is very, very important. I mean, the more that we set up routines, the more that we set aside time, the easier it is to be able to focus without distraction, obviously,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I mean, it's so hard to try to we can't multitask. We talk about it a lot in here. We know that this it's not a real thing, and so for us to be able to have a specific time, specific place, this kind of thing really helps us to get focused down quickly and really maximize that time as well.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah,
best multitasking is not really multitasking at all. It's hyper focus on small tasks, um, to completion,
yeah,
in a rapid succession,
that's it.
and it's not really multitasking.
That's right.
Anybody who's actually working on several things at once knows that means they're not completing anything.
Which is usually what I'm trying to do. But other things like using guided imagery is helpful when we want to make this as vivid as possible, engaging our senses, where we are not just having it a picture, but a super vibrant picture, right? We want to imagine the smells, imagine the sounds, and the more vivid and the more detail that we can get in our visualization, the more impactful it can be for us.
Yeah, 100%. Now we've reached that 30-minute mark. It is
Oh
time for
man,
our affirmations.
it
So,
is. It is.
yeah,
All right, before we get into our affirmations, I want to leave us with a quote by Albert Einstein here. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world.
love it. Let's go.
Let's go.
All
So who's
right.
leading today?
Um, let's see. I think I don't remember who led yesterday, so I'll just do it. Here we
Go
go.
ahead. Let's
All
go.
right. I'm committed to my growth.
I am committed to my growth.
I am loved, appreciated, blessed, and highly favored.
I am loved, appreciated, blessed, and highly favored.
Challenges are opportunities for me to improve.
Challenges are opportunities for me to improve.
Every day I am getting better and better.
Every day I am getting better and better.
I am my best investment.
I am my best investment.
Life happens for me. Everything is for my growth and benefit.
Life happens for me. Everything is for my growth and benefit.
I am an action taker.
I am an action taker.
I am committed to being the most positive person that I know.
I am committed to being the most positive person that I know.
I am a fixer. I'm somebody's answer. When you get me, you get everything that I'm connected to.
I am a fixer. I'm somebody's answer. When you get me, you get everything that I'm connected to.
I am healthy, wealthy, and wise.
I am healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
All right, you guys, have a crunchy, creamy, chewy Friday and weekend. It is going to be an amazing time. The family and I are going to be in Disney World
Whoop, whoop.
all next week. So that is going to be an interesting time for us. I've never been, so never. I have absolutely zero idea what to expect. But it should be a fun family vacation. Um, Adam, you guys are doing something fun.
Yeah, yeah, we're going out to the aquarium today, so we'll be spending time in New Orleans today at the aquarium. So that should
All
be fun.
right.
Yes, don't forget about all the fathers out there. Father's Day is Sunday, so make sure you give all those fathers some love.
Yeah, call your old man.
Yep,
Let him know you care. Let him
yep.
know you love him. So, all right, you guys. We have a lot of stuff coming up in the not too distant future. We've got a new YouTube channel. If you haven't checked that out, please do. We're going to at some point be moving this over to the Growing Your Mindset YouTube channel instead of being on the Grow Giver YouTube channel. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and once we make that hard switch, those who are accustomed to finding it on the Grow Giver are going to be like, where did it go? What happened? Well, we've got another YouTube channel, so we've shared the link several times. We'll continue to share it. Probably a couple more weeks now as we try to get
Yeah,
people, used to the migration on over. But we want to concentrate that campfire in one location so that we can sort of build community that way. We're still trying to figure out, the platform exactly that we want to do build that community on. We're thinking either a Facebook group or a YouTube community, but we'll figure that out. And let you guys know as soon as we can.
yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Monday. Have a
All
great
right.
weekend, guys.
Oh, I'm going ahead and giving my peace sign. I'm not even ready to. Here we go. Here we go.
Peace.